The stars shimmered against the blackness of space as Admiral Vex Thor stood on the bridge of his command ship. His scaled skin reflected the blue glow of the control panels. 3 long fingers tapped against the viewing glass as he watched the planet below. The Lunari had fought well, but like all species before them, they had fallen to the might of the Carvosian Empire. "The last resistance stronghold has surrendered, Admiral," reported Commander Zarlak with a bow of his elongated head. "Shall we begin standard occupation protocols?" Vex Thor nodded. "Another world for the glory of Emperor Dornixol. This marks the 147th species to join our empire." He turned away from the window. "Have the Lunari leaders brought to me. I wish to explain their new place in our order personally." For 3,000 years, the Carvosian Empire had ruled the stars with an iron grip. No species had successfully resisted them. Their technology was unmatched, their military flawless, their control absolute. Far away, on a small blue planet that the Carvosians had never noticed, Dr. Ellie Martinez stared at her computer screen in confusion. The radio telescope array had picked up something strange. The signal was weak, but definitely not natural. "Jack, can you come look at this?" she called to her colleague. Jack Summers set down his coffee and walked over. He leaned over her shoulder, his brow furrowing as he studied the pattern on the screen. "That's not random noise," he said quietly. "Run it through the new algorithm." Ellie typed quickly, and the computer began processing the signal. Minutes passed in tense silence before the screen displayed a series of symbols. "Is that a language?" Ellie whispered, her heart racing. Jack nodded slowly. "I think we just received a message from someone out there." At NASA headquarters, officials gathered in an emergency meeting. The signal had been analyzed for 3 days straight. It wasn't coming from Earth or any known human source. "The message appears to be a distress call," explained Ellie to the room of serious-faced officials. "We've only decoded parts of it, but it mentions something called the Carvosian threat and asks for help." The NASA director rubbed his temples. "Are you absolutely certain this isn't a hoax?" "The signal came from the direction of Proxima Centauri," Jack explained. "We've triple-checked everything. This is real." On the other side of the galaxy, a Carvosian monitoring station detected an unusual transmission. The operator, a junior officer named Krelvos, noticed that someone had intercepted a Lunari rebel transmission and was attempting to respond to it. "Sir, I'm detecting response attempts to a rebel transmission," Krelvos reported to his superior, "from an unmapped sector." Commander Paxter looked up sharply. "Unmapped? That's impossible. The Empire has cataloged every inhabitable system. The signals are primitive but definitely artificial. They appear to be coming from the outer spiral arm, Sector 9 to 47. Paxter's eyes narrowed. "Prepare a scout ship immediately. If there's an undiscovered species capable of interstellar communication, the Emperor must be informed." Back on Earth, humanity continued its daily life, unaware of what was coming. In her small apartment, Ellie couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the message and what it meant. Humans had long wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. In the morning, she met Jack at a coffee shop near the research center. "Do you think whoever sent that message is in danger?" she asked. Jack stirred his coffee thoughtfully. "If they're asking for help, then probably. But what could we possibly do? We barely have the technology to reach our own moon reliably." "Still," we answered, "what if something comes of that?" Neither of them noticed the small metallic object that entered Earth's atmosphere that night. The Carvosian scout ship moved silently, cloaked from human detection technology. It hovered high above the planet, collecting data and transmitting it back to the Empire. The report reached Admiral Vex Thor as he was preparing to leave the newly conquered Lunari system. He read it with growing interest. "An undiscovered world with developing space technology," he mused. "How fascinating. Set course for this Earth. I wish to see these humans for myself." For the first time in 3,000 years, The Harvosian Empire faced something new. They didn't know it yet, but everything was about to change. Captain William Brooks floated through the International Space Station, checking systems as he did every morning. The Earth hummed below him, blue and peaceful. He sipped his coffee from a sealed pouch and gazed out the viewport. Something caught his eye, a flash of light that shouldn't be there. "Houston, this is ISS. I'm seeing something unusual out here," he reported, pressing his face closer to the glass. "There's an object about 2 kilometers out. It's not debris or a satellite. It's moving on its own." The radio crackled with disbelief. "ISS, can you describe the object? It's metallic, oval-shaped, maybe 30 meters long. It's changing position deliberately." Brooks paused, hardly believing what he was about to say. "Houston, I think we're looking at a ship, and it's not one of ours." Within hours, every telescope and radar system on Earth turned skyward. The strange vessel made no attempt to hide anymore. It moved into a higher orbit and simply waited. In the White House Situation Room, American diplomat Ryan Carter sat among military leaders and scientists as they watched the live feed. "We're getting readings of technology far beyond anything we've developed," said General Mills. "Whatever this is, it's not from Earth." "Have they made any aggressive moves?" asked the president. "No, sir. They're just watching us." Dr. Samantha Wright was flown to Washington immediately after the alien ship was confirmed. As one of the country's leading experts in communication theory, she was their best hope for establishing contact. "We need to send them a simple mathematical sequence," she explained. "Numbers are universal. If they respond, we can build from there." The message was sent. The world held its breath. Inside the Sarvosian scout ship, Lieutenant Drazkor received the human transmission. He analyzed it briefly, then prepared a response. The Sarvosians had conquered so many worlds that first contact procedures were routine. "These humans are more advanced than initial scans suggested," he noted to his crew. "They've already achieved orbital capability and digital communication. Inform Admiral Vex Thor that subjugation may require more resources than anticipated." On Earth, monitors lit up as the alien vessel sent its reply. Dr. Wright worked frantically to decode it. "They've responded with the next values in our sequence, plus something else," she said. "It's a simple language primer, similar to what we'd use. They want to talk." As translators worked to establish basic communication, telescopes detected multiple new objects entering the solar system. Large objects, moving fast. The first small scout had been joined by a fleet. Admiral Vex Thor stood on the bridge of his massive command ship as it approached the blue planet. Earth was now visible on the main screen. "Interesting," he said. "Their technology is primitive compared to ours, but they've achieved more than most species at this stage of development, and their responses show remarkable intelligence." Commander Zarlak studied the data from planetary scans. "They appear to be a violent species, Admiral. Their history shows constant warfare amongst themselves." "All the better," Vex Thor replied. "Those who fight among themselves rarely unite against an outside threat. Prepare the standard terms of surrender. I expect they'll be reasonable once they understand the power of our empire." Back on Earth, panic spread as more alien ships appeared. People flooded stores for supplies. Some fled cities. Others prayed. The world's military forces went on high alert, though everyone knew their weapons would likely be useless against visitors from the stars. In the emergency UN session, representatives from every nation gathered to form a united response. Ryan Carter stood at the podium. "We face something unprecedented in human history," he said, his voice steady despite his fear. "But we must remember what makes us human. We have never surrendered in the face of superior force. We adapt. We overcome. If these visitors come in peace, we will welcome them. If they come with other intentions, they will learn that humans do not bow easily." As he spoke, the largest of the alien ships moved into position above New York City. It was massive, casting a shadow over Manhattan. Then, a bright light emerged from its underside, and a beam shot down toward the United Nations building. The Xarvosian Empire had arrived, and they had not come to ask permission. The beam that shot down from the Xarvosian ship wasn't a weapon as many feared. Instead, it projected a giant hologram above the United Nations building. The image showed a tall, scaled alien with 3 long fingers on each hand and yellow eyes. Admiral Vex Thor spoke, his words translated into all Earth languages simultaneously. People of Earth, I am Admiral Vex Thor of the Xarvosian Empire. Your world is now under our protection. Submit to our rule, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and you will be crushed like all who have opposed us for the past 3,000 years. Silence fell across the city, then across the world as the message was broadcast everywhere. In the Pentagon, Air Force Colonel Stephen Harrison watched with narrowed eyes. They expect us to just give up without a fight. What choice do we have? Someone asked. Look at their technology. They could wipe us out. Harrison stood up. We always have a choice. Humans don't surrender to bullies, not even space bullies. The world's leaders debated through the night. The Xarvosians had given them 24 hours to surrender. As the deadline approached, a decision was made. Ryan Carter would deliver Earth's answer. He stood before the UN, his face broadcasting to the Xarvosian fleet. We have received your terms. Earth's response is this. We decline. Humanity will not surrender its freedom to anyone, not even beings from the stars. On his command ship, Vex Thor laughed. How refreshing. Most species are wise enough to accept our terms immediately. He turned to Commander Zarlak. Begin the standard subjugation procedure. Target their military bases first. Zarlak hesitated. Admiral, our scans show these humans have thousands of nuclear weapons. If cornered, they might use them and damage the planet's resources. Then we will have to be precise, said Vex Thor. Launch fighters. Let's show them the futility of resistance. Hundreds of small ships descended from the Xarvosian fleet. They moved with incredible speed toward military bases around the world. But Earth was ready. Colonel Harrison led a squadron of fighter jets to meet the alien craft. Remember your training, he told his pilots. They may have better technology, but we have home field advantage. They don't know our tactics. The first battle between humans and Xarvosians began in the skies over North America. The alien fighters were faster and more maneuverable, but Harrison had studied their movement patterns. They fly in perfect formation, he told his pilots. Too perfect. They're predictable. Use that against them. Human fighters broke into chaotic patterns, flying in ways that defied standard tactics. The Xarvosian pilots, used to enemies who followed logical battle procedures, were confused by the seemingly random movements. Harrison's jet swooped beneath an alien craft. He fired his missiles upward. The alien shields flickered but held. Then he noticed something. When the missiles exploded, the shields weakened most at the point of impact. Target the same spot repeatedly, he ordered. Concentrate fire. 3 human jets focused on a single Xarvosian fighter. The first missile weakened the shields. The second created a small hole. The third went through. The alien craft exploded in a ball of blue flame. We got one, Harrison shouted. They can be beaten. Across the world, human forces followed this new tactic. It wasn't a fair fight by any means, but they managed to destroy 17 Xarvosian ships before being forced to retreat. On the command ship, Vex Thor received the battle report with shock. 17 fighters lost. To primitives. This had never happened before. No newly discovered species had ever destroyed even one Xarvosian vessel during first contact. Their tactics are unusual, Admiral, explained Zarlak. They don't follow any battle logic we recognize. They're unpredictable. Vex Thor's yellow eyes narrowed. Increase the attack force. I want their military capabilities destroyed by nightfall. What the Admiral didn't understand yet was that he wasn't facing just another alien species. He was facing humans, and humans had spent their entire history fighting against nature, against each other, against impossible odds. They had never learned to accept defeat as inevitable. As night fell, Colonel Harrison gathered his remaining pilots. "We've bloodied their nose today," he told them. "Tomorrow, we hit back harder." Admiral Vex Thor was not used to failure. The next morning, he ordered a full-scale attack. Thousands of Tarvosian ships descended on Earth's major cities. Their weapons fired, destroying military bases, airports, and naval yards. "Let them see the price of resistance," Vex Thor commanded. In Washington, D.C., buildings crumbled under alien fire. Dr. Samantha Wright worked frantically in an underground lab, studying the communication she had intercepted from the alien fleet. "There's a pattern to their shield frequencies," she told the scientists around her. "They cycle through a sequence. If we can predict the pattern, we might find a weakness." Meanwhile, NASA engineer Alan Rodriguez examined pieces of a downed alien fighter. He had always been good at taking things apart and understanding how they worked. Now, the fate of humanity might depend on this skill. "Their shield technology is amazing," he said, "but it has a flaw. It's designed to block high-energy impacts, not sustained low-energy ones. A different approach might work better than missiles." As cities burned and millions fled to the countryside, humanity refused to give up. Colonel Harrison's pilots shared what they had learned about fighting the Tarvosian ships. Military forces around the world adapted quickly. In the UN's emergency bunker, Ryan Carter brought together representatives from every nation. "We need to pool our resources," he said. "This isn't a time for old rivalries. Either we stand together, or we fall together." For the first time in human history, all nations agreed to unite their military forces under a single command. General Chen of China, General Petrov of Russia, and General Johnson of the United States would lead this combined force. Navy SEAL Lieutenant Lisa Peterson was chosen for a dangerous mission. The Tarvosians had landed a small ship in the Nevada desert, apparently to collect samples. This was humanity's chance to capture alien technology intact. "This is a stealth mission," she told her team. "We get in, we gather what we can, and we get out. No heroics." Under cover of night, Peterson's team approached the landed ship. The Tarvosian guards moved in predictable patterns, just like their fighters. The team slipped past them and entered the vessel. Inside, they found strange computer terminals with symbols flowing across screens. Peterson placed small devices on the computers. These were data collectors Rodriguez had built, designed to copy alien information. "Look at this," whispered one of her team, pointing to a star map displayed on a large screen. It showed hundreds of worlds marked with Tarvosian symbols. "Take pictures of everything," Peterson ordered. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. The team had been discovered. "Fall back," Peterson shouted. As they ran, she fired at the ship's control panels, hoping to cause damage. The team escaped into the desert night as Tarvosian soldiers pursued them. 2 team members were hit by alien weapons, but the rest made it to their vehicles and sped away. The data they stole was delivered to Dr. Wright. She worked without sleep to translate it. "This is incredible," she said finally. "We've got their communications protocols, star maps, and information about other species they conquered, including something called the Lunari." The star map revealed something shocking. The Tarvosians had conquered hundreds of worlds, creating an empire that spanned much of the galaxy. Earth was just the latest target for their endless expansion. But the data also showed something hopeful. On many conquered worlds, resistance movements still fought against Tarvosian rule. The Lunari in particular had been fighting back for decades. Back at NASA, Rodriguez made a breakthrough with the alien shield technology. "I think I can build a weapon that can penetrate their shields," he told Harrison. "It won't be powerful enough to take down their big ships, but it could work against fighters and smaller vessels." For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a glimmer of hope. They were learning, adapting, and finding ways to fight back against an enemy that had never known defeat. Vex Thor, watching from his command ship, began to feel something unusual. Doubt. 2 weeks into the invasion, Earth was holding on, but barely. Millions had died in the attacks. Cities lay in ruins, but humans continued to fight back with growing skill. Lieutenant Peterson studied the alien data they had stolen. One piece of information stood out. The Xarvosians used specific frequencies to communicate with their conquered worlds. If we broadcast on this frequency, she told Dr. Wright, we might be able to contact these Lunari rebels. Dr. Wright nodded. It's worth trying. The data suggests they've been fighting the Xarvosians for years. They might have knowledge that could help us. Using a modified satellite dish, they sent a simple message into space. Earth resists the Xarvosian Empire. We seek allies. For 3 days, there was no response. Then, as Peterson watched the communications equipment, a reply came through. The message was in broken English, as if translated by someone who had just learned the language. Humans brave to fight. Lunari resist for 20 years. We can help each other. Peterson rushed to show the message to Ryan Carter and the military leaders. We've made contact with another species fighting the Xarvosians. Ask them what they know about Xarvosian weaknesses, General Johnson ordered. Over the next few days, a series of messages went back and forth. The Lunari leader called himself Kyrna. He explained that the Lunari had been studying Xarvosian technology for years. They had discovered several weaknesses but lacked the resources to exploit them fully. Their ships depend on a mineral called Zarthium for power, Kyrna explained. The mineral becomes unstable when exposed to certain radiation frequencies. This information was passed to Alan Rodriguez, who had been working night and day on his shield-penetrating weapon. This changes everything, he said excitedly. If we can disrupt their power source, we might be able to disable entire ships, not just penetrate their shields. While Rodriguez worked on the new weapon, Dr. Ellie Martinez and Jack Summers from NASA made another breakthrough. They developed an algorithm that could predict and disrupt Xarvosian navigation systems. Their ships use a form of quantum mapping, Martinez explained. If we broadcast this signal pattern, it should confuse their systems for a short time. Colonel Harrison immediately saw the potential. We could blind them temporarily, then hit them with Rodriguez's new weapon. In orbit above Earth, Vex Thor received concerning reports. His ground forces were meeting fierce resistance everywhere they landed. Human fighters were becoming increasingly effective against his ships. And now, his communications officers had detected transmissions between Earth and the Lunari system. They've made contact with the Lunari rebels, he told Commander Zarlak with disbelief. How is this possible? They barely have space technology. The humans are proving more resourceful than anticipated, Admiral, Zarlak replied. Perhaps we should request reinforcements from the Imperial fleet. Vex Thor's pride was wounded. No, I will not admit failure to the Emperor. Increase our attacks. Crush their will to resist. But crushing human will prove impossible. For every city the Xarvosians destroyed, the survivors fought harder. For every defeat humans suffered, they learned and adapted. In the underground command center, military leaders from around the world gathered to hear Rodriguez present his new weapon. We call it the Pulse Disruptor, he explained, showing them a large device mounted on a truck. It emits radiation at the exact frequency that destabilizes Zarthium. Our tests on captured Xarvosian equipment have been promising. General Frank Howard, who had taken command of Earth's combined ground forces, asked the question everyone was thinking. How many of these can we build? With global manufacturing capabilities, maybe 100 within a week, Rodriguez answered. It's not enough to drive them off Earth, Peterson noted. Ryan Carter, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Maybe we're thinking too small. The Lunari have been fighting back for 20 years, but haven't been able to drive the Xarvosians from their world either. He looked around the room. What if instead of just defending Earth, we take the fight to them? The room fell silent as they considered this audacious idea. "You mean attack their empire?" Howard asked. Carter nodded. "The Lunari data shows the location of their nearest outpost. If we could liberate just one world, it would show the galaxy that the Starfleet come to the aid." Carter's bold plan to take the fight to the Carvosians was met with disbelief at first. "We can barely defend our own planet," General Howard argued. "How can we possibly attack theirs?" "We use their own technology against them," Carter replied. "The data Lieutenant Peterson captured includes detailed schematics of their ships. With Rodriguez's understanding of their systems, we might be able to modify one of their landed vessels." It was a desperate plan, but desperation had become Earth's constant companion. A team was assembled to capture an intact Tarvosian ship. Colonel Harrison would lead the air support, while Lieutenant Peterson would command the ground team. Rodriguez spent days studying the stolen schematics. "Their propulsion system is based on principles we've theorized but never achieved," he explained. "If we can get a working ship, I believe I can operate it." The opportunity came when a Tarvosian scout ship landed near the ruins of Seattle to conduct repairs. Harrison's fighters engaged the escort ships, while Peterson's team approached the grounded vessel. "Remember," she told her soldiers, "we need this ship intact." The battle was fierce. Peterson lost half her team, but they managed to secure the ship and kill its crew. Rodriguez was brought in immediately. "It's amazing," he said as he examined the ship's controls. "It's actually simpler than I expected. Their technology is advanced, but the principles are universal." Over the next week, Rodriguez and a team of engineers worked non-stop to understand the ship. They discovered that with modifications, it could carry up to 60 people. Not an army, but perhaps enough for a special mission. Meanwhile, Dr. Wright continued communicating with Kyrana. The Lunari promised to coordinate a ground uprising if Earth forces could reach their homeworld in the Proxima Centauri system. "We have thousands of fighters ready," Kyrana messaged. "We only need a way to disable the orbital defenses." The plan came together. A small team of humans would take the modified Sarvosian ship to Proxima Centauri. They would use Rodriguez's pulse disruptor to disable the Sarvosian command ship in orbit. This would signal the Lunari resistance to begin their ground assault. Captain Olivia Bennett, an astronaut with combat experience, was chosen to command the mission. The captured ship was renamed Defiance. "This isn't just about saving Earth anymore," Bennett told her crew as they prepared for departure. "It's about showing every enslaved species that the Tarvosians can be beaten." The day of launch arrived. The Defiance was hidden in an underground hangar. To cover its departure, Earth's remaining military forces launched a coordinated attack on Tarvosian positions worldwide. Admiral Vexthor was so focused on crushing this sudden human offensive that he didn't notice a small ship rising rapidly through the atmosphere. "The humans are becoming more organized," he told Zarlak. "But it's too late. Our reinforcements will arrive within days." What the Admiral didn't know was that the humans were no longer just fighting for themselves. The Defiance left Earth's orbit and activated its faster-than-light drive. Using the stolen Tarvosian navigation data, the ship shuddered as it accelerated beyond anything humans had ever experienced. Transition complete, Rodriguez announced from his engineering station. "According to these readings, we'll reach Proxima Centauri in 3 days." Bennett looked around the bridge at her crew. Soldiers, scientists, and engineers from a dozen different countries. They were the first humans to travel beyond their solar system, going not as explorers but as liberators. "Start the final preparations," she ordered. "When we arrive, we'll only have one chance to get this right." Back on Earth, Ryan Carter addressed the United Nations. "Today, humanity has taken its first step into the galaxy, not as conquerors like the Tarvosians, but as allies to all who yearn for freedom. If the Defiance succeeds, it will be the beginning of the end for the Tarvosian Empire." Admiral Vex Thor received an urgent message from the Proxima Centauri outpost. "Unknown ship approaching. Configuration appears to be Tarvosian, but it's not responding to identification requests. For the first time in his long career, the Admiral felt fear. Somehow, he knew the humans were behind this. "Send a warning to all outposts," he ordered, "and prepare my personal battleship. I will deal with this human problem myself." The Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Proxima Centauri. Through the view screen, Captain Bennett and her crew saw a planet similar to Earth, but with more land than ocean. Several Tarvosian ships orbited it like hungry predators. "We're being hailed," reported the communications officer. "They're asking for identification codes." "Send the codes we found in the ship's database," Bennett ordered, "and hope they're still valid." Tense seconds passed. Then the response came. "Scout Ship TR-17, you are cleared to approach. Report to Docking Bay 4 for inspection." Rodriguez whispered, "They suspect something, but they're not sure what." Bennett nodded. "We won't get any closer than weapons range. Prepare the pulse disruptor." As the Defiance approached the largest Tarvosian ship, Rodriguez activated the weapon they had built into the scout ship's systems. A purple beam shot out, striking the command ship's engines. Almost immediately, the lights on the massive vessel flickered and died. "Their power system is destabilizing," Rodriguez announced with a smile. "The pulse disruptor works." "Send the signal to the Lunari," Bennett ordered. On the planet below, Kyrna received the human's message. The tall, silver-skinned Lunari leader turned to his resistance fighters. "The time has come. The humans have kept their promise." Across the Lunari homeworld, thousands of resistance fighters emerged from hiding. They attacked Sarvosian outposts, government buildings, and military bases. The occupiers, cut off from their orbital support, were overwhelmed by the sudden uprising. The Defiance continued its attack, using the pulse disruptor on 3 more Tarvosian ships before the enemy realized what was happening. The remaining alien vessels moved to surround the human ship. "They're closing in," warned the tactical officer. Bennett remained calm. "Launch the fighters." The scout ship's cargo bay opened, revealing 6 small craft built from a combination of human and Tarvosian technology. Colonel Harrison led these fighters out. Though small, each was armed with a miniature pulse disruptor. "Attack pattern Delta," Harrison ordered his pilots. "Target their engines, just like we practiced." The human fighters darted between the much larger Tarvosian vessels, firing precisely at vulnerable points. 2 more enemy ships lost power and drifted helplessly. On Earth, news of the battle reached the Combined Military Command. Dr. Wright translated the messages coming from the Lunari resistance. "They're winning," she announced. "The Proxima Centauri system is being liberated." Ryan Carter looked at the assembled leaders. "This is just the beginning. We need to spread the word to other subjugated worlds that the Tarvosians can be defeated." News of the human victory at Proxima Centauri spread quickly through the Tarvosian Empire's communication networks. The Lunari made sure of it, broadcasting the battle on all frequencies. Other conquered species heard that humans, a previously unknown race, had helped defeat their oppressors. On a dozen worlds, resistance movements that had been dormant for years suddenly became active again. The Tarvosian Empire, which had known only expansion for 3,000 years, was now fighting rebellions on multiple fronts. Admiral Vex Thor received the news of the Proxima Centauri defeat while en route to Earth. His yellow eyes narrowed to slits. "How is this possible?" he raged. "They are primitives." Commander Zarlak displayed a report on a large screen. "The humans have shared their pulse disruptor technology with the Lunari. They're building more weapons as we speak, and other subjugated races are asking for the same technology." For the first time in Tarvosian history, an Imperial Admiral faced the possibility of failure. Vex Thor knew the Emperor would not be merciful if he lost control of the situation. "Change course," he ordered. "We return to Earth immediately. We must crush the humans before this rebellion spreads further." Meanwhile, the Defiance prepared to return home. Captain Bennett looked at the view screen, where Kyrna's face appeared. "My people owe you a debt we can never repay," The Lunari leader said. For 3 generations we have lived under Tarvosian rule. Today we are free again. This is just the beginning, Bennett replied. Will your people join us in liberating others? Kyrana's silver face broke into a smile. The Lunari fleet has been hidden for decades. Now it will fly again, alongside humans. As the Defiants headed back to Earth, Bennett knew they were returning to a changed galaxy. Humanity had proven that the Tarvosian Empire was not invincible. Now, a spark of rebellion was spreading like wildfire through the stars. Earth prepared for Admiral Vex Thor's return. The success at Proxima Centauri had given humanity hope, but everyone knew the Tarvosians would strike back with even greater force. The Admiral will not accept defeat, Ryan Carter told the Emergency Council. He'll return with everything he has. They weren't disappointed. 3 days after the Defiants returned to Earth, sensors detected a massive fleet entering the solar system. It was the largest gathering of Tarvosian military might ever seen. Over 1,000 ships led by Vex Thor's personal battleship. The Empire has never committed this many resources to subjugate a single world, Dr. Wright said, studying the data. They're afraid of us now. Earth had used the time wisely. Rodriguez had built hundreds of pulse disruptors. Colonel Harrison had trained pilots in the tactics that worked against Tarvosian ships. But it wouldn't be enough against such overwhelming numbers. Then a message came from deep space. Earth, stand firm. You are not alone. From beyond Pluto, ships began to appear. The Lunari fleet that Kyrana had promised, joined by vessels from a dozen other species who had heard of the human victory. Each had suffered under Tarvosian rule. Each had decided it was time to fight back. Captain Bennett, back on Earth, smiled at the sight. We gave them something that Tarvosians never expected: hope. Admiral Vex Thor saw the gathered resistance fleet and felt something new: fear. His entire career had been based on the certainty of Tarvosian superiority. Now he faced a coalition of races united by their hatred of the Empire. They cannot stand against the Imperial Armada, he told Zarlak, trying to sound confident. We will crush them all together. The battle for Earth began. Thousands of ships filled the space around the planet, fighters darting between larger vessels like angry insects. The pulse disruptors proved devastatingly effective, but the Tarvosians' numbers were overwhelming. Earth's combined forces fought alongside their new allies. General Howard coordinated the ground defenses while Colonel Harrison led the air units. Dr. Martinez and Jack Summers used their algorithm to temporarily blind Tarvosian targeting systems. Lieutenant Peterson led Special Forces teams to capture more alien technology. But the tide turned when Captain Bennett led a small team aboard the Defiants on a daring mission. Using the confusion of the massive battle as cover, they approached Vex Thor's command ship. We can't defeat their entire fleet, Bennett had explained during planning. But we can cut off the head of the snake. The Defiants, still registered as a Tarvosian scout ship, was allowed to approach the Admiral's battleship. Once in range, Bennett's team launched their attack. They used a modified pulse disruptor that Rodriguez had designed specifically to target the battleship's command center. Admiral Vex Thor was in the middle of ordering a new attack when his ship's systems suddenly failed. The lights dimmed and emergency alarms blared. What's happening? He demanded. Commander Zarlak checked the systems with growing horror. We're losing power throughout the ship, and we're being boarded. Bennett led her team through the darkened corridors of the massive battleship. They fought their way to the bridge where Vex Thor waited, surrounded by his guards. You cannot defeat an empire that has stood for 3,000 years, the Admiral snarled. We already have, Bennett replied. Your empire was built on fear. We've shown the galaxy they don't need to be afraid anymore. With Vex Thor's capture, the battle shifted dramatically. Dr. Wright broadcast a message to all Tarvosian ships, showing their admiral in human custody. One by one, Tarvosian vessels began to surrender or retreat. 1 month later, representatives from 27 formerly subjugated species gathered on Earth. It was the first meeting of what would become the Galactic Confederation, a union of free worlds dedicated to ensuring no empire like the Xarvosians could ever rise again. Ryan Carter, chosen to represent humanity, addressed the gathering. For too long, the galaxy lived under the shadow of tyranny. Today, we begin a new chapter based on cooperation and freedom. In a cell beneath the United Nations building, Admiral Vex Thor contemplated his failure. He had lost not just a battle but an empire, all because of a species that Xarvosians had never heard of until a few months ago. They were called humans, and they had changed the galaxy forever.